Good evening and welcome to the board meeting of the Village Board of Trustees for Pleasantville. Today is Monday, April 22nd. If you're watching live on Monday, April 22nd, we encourage you to call in if you have comments or questions. Our call-in number is 769-1677. As always, you can watch us live on Cablevision or Verizon Cable TV or live streaming at pctv76.org, and within a day or two you can watch an on-demand webcast indexed by the subject of our subjects of our agenda, again at pctv76.org. Our next regular meeting is Monday, May 6th at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7, followed by a work session on Monday, May 13 at 7 p.m. and a regular meeting to follow on Monday, May 20th at 8 p.m. with a work session at 7. That is a different schedule from our usual because the last Monday in May is Memorial Day, which reminds me to remind all of you that we'll be having our usual Memorial Day ceremonies and parade on the morning of Memorial Day. That is Monday, May 27th. Thank you, Judy. And at the end of that week, on Friday, is the date of the annual fire department parade. So Monday, May 27 in the morning is a Memorial Day parade and service, and Friday, May 31 is our annual fire department parade. While you have your calendars out, be reminded that Pleasantville Day is also coming up. That is on Saturday, May 18, and our Pleasantville Music Festival is scheduled for Saturday, July 13th. And a couple of announcements to make, and one is the very happy news that the Village of Pleasantville received 2 different awards yesterday from County Executive Astorino at the county's Earth Day Award ceremony. That took place yesterday at the Kensico Dam Plaza. We received an award for attaining the highest percentage of our waste stream that was recycled. The Village of Pleasantville came in first in all of Westchester County at 0.21 pounds per person per day. The next in line was Hastings at 0.19, and on the other awardees were Ardsley, Broxville, Irvington, North Castle, and Rye. But the amazing and happy result is that the Village of Pleasantville was first in Westchester County in recycling, a testament to all the efforts all of you make, and we will now have all these other communities that came in second and third racing harder to catch us, but they won't get us next year because we're going to do even better. So congratulations to our recycling committee. The chairman, Dan Turner, went to the ceremony and received that award on behalf of the recycling committee. They have been tireless advocates of recycling and green living in general, which leads me to the second report, and that is the Pleasantville Recycles Committee was also given an award for bringing zero waste to the annual Pleasantville Music Festival, which was also yeoman service by our recycling committee. Helen Muir and Christine O'Grislow attended the ceremony and received the award on behalf of those folks. So 2 great awards, very well received by a relatively new committee that has made up for whatever time they weren't in operation by really showing great results and showing them quickly.
I just wanted to add that number for the recycling is a very hard number to get up there. And for years, we were always like, looking at that number and saying, wow, I can't believe we can't get that up. But it was just the efforts of the Pleasantville Recycles to educate people on how to recycle, our new recycling bins, and just what you can recycle. Of course, it helped that the county included more recyclables, but the fact that they got that message out there and educated people and instead of doing this, do that, it made obviously all the difference in the world. So as the mayor was saying, just a great effort on their part to get the word out there and educate people on how to do it the right way.
And I really can't say enough for how energetic these people have been. Just done a great job. A lot of you I know participated this past weekend in dropping off down near DPW as part of a recycling committee effort old sporting goods and equipment, and the recycling committee will be at Pleasantville Day, having brought all that stuff back. Gently used sporting equipment that will be distributed at Pleasantville Day for free. They did that last year. A mountain of stuff was collected and cleared out people's basements, and a mountain of stuff was picked up by other residents whose kids had the advantage of new equipment at no cost. So that was also a great thing and something to look forward to.
Two things, just to put that number in perspective, in that we can do better. I just looked up, I think the Netherlands recycle 51% of all solid waste, so, and we're at 0.21, less than a pound. So we can do better. And the second thing is, as we do better, please keep in mind, because I see it all the time, you're risking getting a ticket. When you do your recycling, it has to go into a bin or a garbage can. You cannot put your recycles out in a white plastic bag on the side of the road. Code enforcement has been made aware that that's something to look out for, so please bear that in mind when you recycle.
Gee, Jonathan, we were just looking to be number one in Westchester. We weren't looking to spread out to
You
the
know,
Netherlands.
you gotta aim
What
big.
about, how do we look up against, like, Paris, maybe?
Well, I mean,
Seeing that we're
I
the
said
best
we need
smelling
to aim
city.
big. So
I bet they're not the best smelling city in the Netherlands.
Well, we'll send you to the
there's a
Netherlands.
lot of tulips over there.
We'll send you to the Netherlands at your own expense to do research on this project. A week.
I just wanted a sense of what what
Really,
recycling
let's
can
compare
do to it.
apples to apples,
I
why
just
don't
All
we?
right.
know we're going to compete globally. I'm very concerned.
The weekend,
Really?
Oh, you guys.
moving on, the weekend before last,
Quarter of a
both
pound.
Patty and I attended on Sunday an extremely nice ceremony, which was the rededication of the World War II monument that is on the yard of Our Lady of Pompeii Church down at Saratoga Avenue. That was a World War II monument that was erected actually in memory of the people from Pleasantville who were lost in the war, and it was erected actually before the war was over, and so there's some reason to think it's one of the very first monuments that was put up. Grace Bear, who has a long and storied family history in that neighborhood, did what she always does, and that is she decided what needed to be done, and she got it done, and the monument was restored and rededicated. It is unlike our monuments here at Memorial Plaza. It's on private land, and thanks very much to Our Lady of Pompeii and Holy Innocents for hosting that event as well. So that was a great thing, and congratulations again to Grace and to her family. Yesterday, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that this would be happening. The North American Cup was played. It's a table tennis tournament that took place at the Westchester Table Tennis Center, which is on Tompkins Avenue.
It was next weekend.
No.
It was.
Oh, I screwed up.
Saturday and Sunday.
It was an extraordinary thing, and I think it's doubtless fair to say that there has never been in the village of Pleasantville, New York, an accumulation of Olympic-class athletes in a given sport at this level. It was a 2.5-day tournament, and I attended the finals. The women's finals included the two best women table tennis players in the United States. The men's final included one of the best men in the United States, and I believe the #1 ranked Canadian player. So it was an extraordinary thing. It's the kind of thing that reminds you that table tennis is very much, at this level at least, is very much unlike the game that we have all played in people's basements. It was really an awful lot of fun and brought a very, very good attention to the village of Pleasantville. And I was mightily impressed, and I encourage everybody to keep an eye out. I think that it's likely that the Table Tennis Center, which is actually one of the biggest in the United States, will host similar tournaments going forward. So a great event and a fun thing to have Pleasantville, New York in the headlines, really literally around the world. There were several cameras there, and the competition was live streamed around the world. Table tennis being a very, very big sport elsewhere in the world.
Were the Netherlands there?
I don't know, but They might have been.
Just checking,
They were.
Jonathan.
They were.
Not a big sport in the Netherlands.
They were
Just
busy.
make sure you're,
They were busy recycling. They couldn't play.
Well, let me get on the internet and get that answer for you.
So, the other thing I wanted to point out was, as those of you who regularly watch our meetings or read the press are aware, there are two very big zoning proposals that have been presented to the Village Board of Trustees. On Washington Avenue, the Toll Brothers Company has proposed a zoning change to convert the former Baker Properties site, that's that corporate office campus on the hill about midway down Washington Avenue, to a 70 townhouse residential development. And over on Bedford Road near Maple Hill, the northern wooded parcel that's owned by the Methodist Church has been proposed as the site of a senior assisted living project by a company from Massachusetts called Benchmark. So there has been a lot of talk about that and quite a bit of discussion in the press and quite a bit of controversy, as always attends proposals of this scale. And for that reason, the five of us put together a statement that is posted on our website at pleasantville-ny.gov, and we've also circulated it to those who have expressed an interest. And I'm just going to take a moment to read it now, because part of our effort was to let people know what was happening and what the status was and what the way forward would be. And part of our intent was also to give people an idea about where they could tune in going forward in order to stay in touch with this issue if it's of interest. So it reads as follows. Dear residents, as many of you know, the village has received 2 recent applications for significant zoning changes. We write to provide a status report and to highlight information that we've made available. No decisions are imminent, as there is plenty of work to be done before either of these matters comes to a vote of the village board. We encourage everyone who's interested to get involved. The first is the Benchmark Assisted Living proposal on Bedford Road near Maple Hill. The United Methodist Church on Bedford Road seeks to sell their undeveloped land just north of the church. Benchmark Senior Living proposes to buy this land for an assisted living facility. They have filed an application requesting the substantial zoning changes that would be required for the project to proceed. Benchmark is a for-profit entity and the project would be taxable. We're aware that materials are being circulated by neighbors opposed to the Benchmark project, and we want to be clear that those communications are not reviewed by the village for accuracy or fairness. For the sake of clarity, we note that Benchmark's requested zoning does not propose that assisted living facilities could be built anywhere in Pleasantville, as suggested by a recent flyer. It proposes a floating zone that requires a minimum 3-acre site along a state or county road. Second item is the Toll Brothers Townhouse proposal on the Washington Avenue office site. The Toll Brothers Company proposes to purchase the vacant office building site on Washington Avenue, often called the Baker Properties site, based on its past ownership. They have filed a request for zoning that would permit construction of approximately 70 townhouse-style homes along a new private roadway within the site. The homes would be taxable as fee-simple lots like single-family homes, by which we mean they'd be taxed just as single-family homes are, not in the tax-favored status that co-ops and condos achieve under New York State law. Next steps, the village board can accept these proposed zoning changes, reject them, or rewrite them with different terms and conditions. There's a well-developed process for considering applications of this kind. Based on state law, the Pleasantville codes, and the village's longstanding practice of open review and discussion. Both applicants have provided drafts of the zoning amendments they seek, and they are submitting documents describing the project's layouts, operations, and impacts. All of these materials will be reviewed with care by the village board, the planning commission, and our planning consultants. Note that the costs for our consultants are paid by the applicants. There will be many opportunities for comment from residents, both informally and in public hearings. We'll receive comments from our Conservation Advisory Committee as well. Please note the following information resources provided by the village. 1, the village website at pleasantville-ny.gov provides links to all of the materials submitted by the applicants and a calendar of meeting dates for boards and commissions. 2, you can subscribe to news at pleasantville-ny.gov/subscriber, or by going to pleasantville-ny.gov and clicking subscribe to news in the left-hand column. You'll be provided with the option to receive automatic emails with board and commission agendas that provide notice of meetings and topics that will be discussed. 3, the PCTV website at pctv76.org provides links to on-demand videos of village board meetings. Live board meetings are carried on Verizon TV Channel 36 and Cablevision TV Channel 76, and they are streamed live at pctv76.org. 4, the March edition of the Mayor's Catching Up Show on PCTV includes a general overview of the proposals made by Benchmark and Toll. That's available at pctv76.org. And in closing, we noted that it's our job to balance competing concerns for the benefit of the village. We take that responsibility very seriously. As always, all of us are happy to engage questions or comments on this or any other subject, signed by all 5 members of the Board of Trustees. So that statement is also up on the website at pleasantville-ny.gov, and as I mentioned, we've circulated in various places just in an effort to make sure everybody's working from the same set of info. You want to update the farm market?
No, I just want to add to that, you know, it's incumbent upon people when they get information to make sure before you disseminate it yourself that where is the information coming from, and I think the mayor just laid out for you that these are the facts, and if before you go and you know, consider the sources of where you're getting things from and question it, question us, question where you're getting your information from. Don't assume that everything you're reading is factual. Find out what the facts are before you start to promulgate all the information that you're getting. So that's just my 2 cents. The farmers market is great. It's doing great, and we're ready to move outside almost. And
So it's inside until when?
It's the
After
end.
the Pleasantville Day, right?
Right?
No, they have a week off.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have a week off.
Okay?
Thank you, Shane.
I don't know the exact date because I'm not.
All right, so
remembering.
I guess the last indoor date is Saturday, May 11.
Right, then
Right.
you're off.
There's no farm market on the day of
Pleasantville
Pleasantville Day, which
Right.
is Saturday, May 18, and then it goes outdoors back to its Memorial
the only one I
Plaza
can
site
remember.
on Saturday, May 25.
Right.
Great, thank you all. Anybody else have something to announce or add?
I do one other thing. I just wanted to say that Bruce LaMonica, our fire chief, has fulfilled his 2-year rotation as chief, and he, I unfortunately don't have the letter here with me this week, I had it last week. He wrote a very nice letter, just, thanking us for all of the working together with the fire department. Bruce was the guy during Sandy that sat here for 2 days, 3 days, and also during Irene as well, and just did an incredible job, and his service is just so appreciated, and I just wanted to wish him a lot of luck and thank him for everything that he's done here for the village. The new chief is
Manny Colmenares?
and, so we're
Right.
looking at, they have a definite system in the fire department, and we just, all of those guys, just thank them so very much. But Bruce did an incredible job as chief, and I personally thank him very much.
I'd like to chime in because I had personal experience with the fire department this week. I had a fire in my kitchen, and you really appreciate what these guys do when you have a situation that is getting very quickly out of hand. So I personally want to thank them for what they did in my home. And I'd like to thank them for all that they do, really, every day. It's an incredible thing.
Well, and recognize that although the equipment costs are borne by the tax-supported fire district, these people who train and work and organize and then get out of bed in the middle of the night to help us are unpaid volunteer positions, and just as everyone else has said, it's an extraordinary thing.
You know what else I'd like to comment on is what a wonderful youth corps they
I
have.
was just going to say that. the youth choir, yeah.
I would say, I had a fire in my home on Wednesday. I would say 7 or 8 of their youth corps came, really knew what they were doing, very professional, very impressive. So we thank them as well.
We experienced that at Foxwoods. Remember when we had the horrible
big
fire at
fire, yeah.
Foxwoods? It was the youth corps was unbelievable, and the Pleasantville Ambulance Corps has also another great
do.
youth corps. So
All right, we met in work session and executive session before the regular meeting with the attorneys who have been assisting us with a number of cable TV and cell tower related issues, and we have added a resolution to our agenda tonight that was not on the original agenda to circulate for comment to the Planning Commission a draft local law that would revise our cell tower and telecommunications code. So that will be added, and you'll hear more about that as as it progresses through the system. So let's go to the resolutions. Number 87, Colleen.
Resolved that pre-check register dated April 22nd, 2013, covering check number 75147 through 75229 have been reviewed, and they are hereby approved as listed below, coming from the general fund, the water fund, the refuse fund, the pool fund, and the trust and agency fund, totaling $294,161.02.
Is there a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Approve, motion approved. Number 88.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees has reviewed the minutes of the meeting held on Monday, April 8th, 2013, and they are hereby approved.
Is there a second? Second. Comments or corrections?
Under scheduled meetings, the fourth paragraph, there's a double Friday, just a typo.
Friday.
You know.
Worth noting, these minutes include the mention I made about the fact that Metro North is undertaking station improvements, and I am happy to report that they're underway. So as you walk through there, you'll see the work that's going on. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Number 89.
I resolve that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the appointment of Richard Merton as cook for the Pleasantville Senior Center, effective April 23rd, 2013, at a salary of $33,838.
Is there a second?
Second?
Our longstanding cook at the senior center, Justine Barnes, who not only cooks for the senior lunch program but also for the Meals on Wheels program, has resigned, and we will miss her mightily, but are fortunate to have Richard Merton available to step in, and he's a known figure. His parents well known to us and well known at the senior center. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Number 90.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the request from the Memorial Day Committee to hold the Memorial Day Parade on Monday, May 27, 2013 at 10 a.m. Said parade route to begin at the Bedford Road School, proceed down Bedford Road to the Memorial Plaza, concluding with the ceremony at the World War II Monument. And further resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby authorizes the police chief to post no parking signs along the parade route and in Memorial Plaza, and to tow all vehicles violating this temporary parking restriction.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. And again, I remind everyone, I know quite a few people who have not come in the past and for whatever reason found their way down to the ceremony and found it to be not only a moving thing but also a great local tradition, and we encourage all of you to join us. Number 91.
Whereas sealed bids were advertised in the official village newspaper and received on Friday, April 12, 2013 for janitorial services, and whereas bids were received as per the following and reviewed by the village clerk as follows. We received 6 bids, the lowest bid from Fullerton Services in the amount of $2,999, and it went all the way up to $5,500. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby awards the bid for janitorial services to Fullerton Services, Bedford, New York, in the amount of $2,999 per month, as per the terms set forth in the janitorial bid specifications and subject to receipt of the required insurance certificates.
Is there a second?
Second.
And that low bid is backed up by a memo from Patty Dwyer indicating that,
Actually, it's from Judy.
Judy.
oh, so it is, I'm sorry.
She's the bid
It's to
opener.
Patty
She
Dwyer.
does a nice job with this for me.
Judy checked the references, and Fullerton came through with good references, and so we have benefited from a good price.
Yes, no, we're happy to have them on board.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. Number 92.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees hereby approves the following budget amendments to increase revenue and expense for the sale of the Bedford Road Recreation Center, to the Hurricane Sandy Police Door repair, 3, water non-resident repair and water supply equipment, and 4, water non-resident and water transmission, 5, capital transfer for recreation center project. So we're going to increase the, by $99,568, the sale of property to the, transfer to capital, $1,780 for Hurricane Sandy to Sandy Village Hall repair, $10,840 for non-resident repair to water supply equipment, $1,600. Water non-resident repair to water transfer outside service, $99,568. Interfund transfer to capital project new recreation center for a total of $213,356. And then to transfer funds for over budget accounts, $3,000 from contingency to police overtime. Oh my God, there's another page.
Yeah, it's the end of the
I
year.
should have
perhaps.
just
We're not
totaled the
done
whole
yet.
thing.
Sorry, Mindy.
$2,506 from contingency to the Manville Lot Maintenance and Garbage Compactor, $8,311 from contingency to the Farmers Market, $15,940 from contingency to the Senior Center Retirement Payout Sick, $16,953 from contingency to the Senior Center Retirement Payout Vacation for a total of $46,710. And then we have a reverse transfer from contingency to be appropriated from the general fund balance. The general fund balance. $41,610 from sanitary sewers outside service to contingency. And then the amount to increase sanitary sewer outside service by $41,610.
Is there a second?
Oh, sorry.
Second.
guys.
Patty, do you want to give
Sorry,
the
I'll talk
executive
the
summary?
highlights. The highlights
The
of this.
highlights or lowlights in a couple of cases.
The sale of the rec center had to be recorded as a sale of property, so it gets recorded as such.
Let me just
But
stop you
we
right
are-
there, and I should have mentioned that at the outset, and that is that a couple of weeks ago, we closed on the sale of the old rec center on Bedford Road at Great Oak Lane. As many of you know, we've been trying to sell it for quite a long period of time. I am very, very, very happy to report that we have closed on the sale and that the new owners are Mike and Diana McCormick, Mike of McCormick Contracting. They are very excited about the restoration of the house and the conversion of it to residential use, and are clearly going to be good stewards of that great old building. So back to Patty.
Okay, not a problem.
That's where the money came from.
Yeah, so we're recording it received. We are transferring it to an interfund in order to pay the capital repair expenses to the new rec center. We're transferring it from that point out into fund balance, where it will lapse and add to your surplus, because that was the intent of the money, to be used for the new center, and then whatever residual was to return it to fund balance. The others are smaller. To talk about the larger items, there's, as a consequence of Virginia Pancotti's retirement, some accruals that were due to her. That money is being transferred out of contingency, and we are reversing our book entry on the sewer repair that took place on Bedford Road to charge that to fund balance instead of contingency, because we needed to have contingency available for a few end-of-year transfers. And the sewer repair is legitimate use of appropriated fund balance.
That it is. Unhappy to need to do it, but there was no choice, so thank you for that. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Number 93, Jonathan.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the request of the Guion Street residents to hold a block party on Saturday, June 1st, 2013. Rain date's the next day, the 2nd, from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Is there a second?
Second.
Long list of people who've signed on. Sounds like a great event. More power to you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Brian, number 94.
And this is the big enchilada. Thank you. Whereas the village administrator presented a tentative budget for the fiscal year 2013 and 2014, and whereas a public hearing was held on April 8th, 2013 before the Board of Trustees, now therefore be it resolved that the Village of Pleasantville's 2013-2014 fiscal year budget is adopted as follows. General fund expenditures, $13,493,241. General fund real property tax revenues, $9,675,332. General fund non-property tax revenues, $3,317,909. General fund appropriated fund balance, $500,000. with an assessed valuation, $111,142,152. The tax rate per 1,000 assessed valuation is $86.9368, and the tax rate increase comes in at 2.81%.
Is there a second?
Second.
So that storm of numbers is the result of months of work by Patty and Mary Schwartz and Pam Hoffman in our Treasurer's Department and all the department heads, and then a couple of months of work with the village board, with all of those people. The 2.81% tax rate increase by our best calculation is within the tax cap. That is below the 2% tax cap. The reason it's higher than the 2% tax, that it reads as 2.81, is that the tax cap calculation has a complicated set of offsets and set-asides, and we believe, based on our best good faith calculations, that we are below the tax cap. Can't count on the state controller's office to help us out with that. There was an exchange of emails today that with other communities that reported exactly the condition we have, which is that the state controller's office asked for our data to demonstrate where we were with the tax cap. We sent them the data and said, by our calculation, we're within the tax cap. Do you agree? And they wrote back to us as well as to everybody else and said, we are going to defer comment on that until May 10th. May 10th being after the point at which we're legally obligated to file our budget. If I got that fairly stated, Patty?
That's what
that's the
Mary
fact,
wants
Jack.
us to override the tax cap, just for that
Exactly.
reason. That makes me very nervous. I did not know this.
Yeah,
Well-
it all transpired the last week.
It all, in
We
the
expected to
last couple of
get
days. So,
some confirmation from them,
This
and
is why.
Okay,
they
so-
suspended their review of all the municipal tax cap.
And they know villages have to
Reviews.
have their,
yeah, they
their
know.
budgets in. They mandate
That's
it.
right.
So,
So,
there you go. There you go. I just,
well, I disagree with you. I mean, the reality here is that our goal and intent and our full-hearted belief is that we have lived within the tax cap.
Exactly,
And
but it's not
if-
up to us.
If
but it's
af-
not, we did, but,
And- well,
you
hear
know,
me out. Hold
we're
on.
not the,
Hear
we're
me
not
out.
the, supreme leader.
If after the fact we are found to have violated the tax cap, the effect of that is that the following year we would be subject to a different cap and we would override it. I mean,
And we get
it's-
screwed even more.
No, we wouldn't. It has
Yeah,
no effect on
because
us at
they're
all.
gonna calculate, that page-long calculation
But we would override
is.
it.
That's the point.
It doesn't matter, you're
probably
getting
have to.
less money as far as when they figure out that, that actuarial percentage, the amount of money that you're gonna be like trying to work with as,
The effect of
is gonna
it,
be less.
well,
The
first off,
punishment is that the tax cap would have to be less money, but then in that case, if we couldn't do
So,
it, we would
so why
override
is it
it.
all right with you guys that you go over it next year versus just doing it this year,
I'm
just
not,
in case?
I'm not trying to
It's-
go over it next year either, although we may have to. We'll have to see what happens when the time comes. But as far as I'm concerned, I think the tax cap is a lousy law and ill-written. It does have its
That
positive aspects.
pigeonholes-
And hear me out. I mean, the reality is, we think we've done the right thing. We think we're living within the tax cap. There's no shenanigan here. We've done the calculations every which way and backwards. It certainly is not Mary Schwartz's fault if the treasurer,
That's
the
going
state
in the
controller
minutes.
would come back with some calculation
Pam too.
to the
Pam.
contrary, but I really don't expect that to happen. If it did, it's a result that, as far as I can see, hasn't got any impact on us, so.
Oh, that's what, I don't know why you wanna go there. I don't know why you're so comfortable with being there when
Because
you don't have to be there.
there's no
You
risk.
don't have to be there.
All right,
Look, I find the whole discussion of a tax cap riveting and completely a waste of time, because I agree with Peter, that's politics. And when our own politicians can't put in place a mechanism to ensure that we've actually lived by it in a timely fashion under the same guise that we're required to live under, then it's just preposterous. I think it's a joke. Furthermore, I for one, this comes to no surprise of anybody out there, because of my view on the tax cap, because I don't believe that Albany, Albany is a do as I say, not as I do mentality. They aren't trying to live under any sort of cap up there, and they're completely willing to pass down the expenses. They don't have the guts to cut onto us, enforcing us to then reassess programs which are near and dear to you, or to raise your taxes and violate the cap. Having said that, I don't approach budget, nor do I think at its heart, either does the board, with the intent to be governed by the tax cap. However, the net result of the way this budget was approached was that's what we tried to do. And the net result was we're going to use $675,000 of fund balance, our savings account, in order to make this a reality. And that amount came about principally because we looked at what it took to be under the tax cap and said we're going to use that amount of savings to get there. I found that number, and still find it to a degree, troubling. Although I did a lot of work with Patty and with the board, and I've gotten comfortable with it because I think that not debt service, but fund balance, however you want to define it, general fund, debt service, using money from the water fund, etc. Part of the reasons it's there is to stabilize taxes. And so that we don't have to necessarily have big increases one year and smaller increases in future years. And I became comfortable with the use of this because now mind you, many people might find this laughable that a government actually looks out more than just 9 months, but in fact looked out 3 years. Our debt service is going to drop significantly. I do not have any faith that we are going to find $675,000 of savings to cut in the next 2 or 3 years. Nor do I have a lot of faith, although there's reason to be optimistic that maybe we can, and in fact it goes back to the earlier discussion that we were having about Benchmark and about Toll Brothers and any other, quite frankly, business, commercial, otherwise that wants to locate here. You know, as a community, when you look at what we're doing to try to keep your taxes low, you need to recognize the fact that the people who want to make these kind of sizable investments into our community, yes, maybe they don't fit perfectly well. Yes, we're going to have to do a lot of work to work with them and see if there's a way to ease the transition. However, these are potential clients of the village. These are people who want to make a significant, multiple $million-dollar investment into our community. Yes, with an expectation of some sort of profit, but at the same time, there is a significant potential revenue generation for the village, some multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you keep in mind that every $100,000 thereabout of revenue is 1% of our taxes, these are significant investments that they're looking to make. And while it's not all about money, it certainly is to a degree about money, and we need to keep that in mind when we look at that. Having said all that, I don't bank on the fact that we're going to have enough revenue, generate an additional $675,000 is what we need to do in order to close that gap anytime soon, certainly not over the next few years. But I do think that debt service there's a rationale to believe that debt service will bail us out or at least offset a degree of that. Having said that, I put forth some goals. I don't think that the board, they certainly haven't embraced them with a great deal of warmth, but they haven't also rejected them out of spite. And I will put forth what my agenda will be in order to, and how I got comfortable with this. This comes as no surprise to anybody because we've talked about this. I don't believe we should codify it, but I certainly believe that these are some general guidelines that we should live by. One is that there should be very limited, if any, additional borrowings over the next several years. And if there are, we need to do that against the backdrop of what it means to our debt service in 2017 and 18, which is what we're looking at in order to reduce this reliance on savings going forward. Two, I think that we need to very much assess new hires. I think we should, I won't go as far to say that we need to do a moratorium, but we certainly need to very much look at new hires unless their costs can be justified by either increased in revenues or decreases in cost, i.e., for example, they'll reduce an overtime budget somewhere and it makes some sense. We need to really think about whether we need to go there or not. Again, in looking out over the next 3 years, there's reason to believe that we'll get some relief from some savings due to attrition and retirement. So I think that's a place that we need to not just assume it's going to happen, but manage to make it happen. I think we need to, and Mary does a very good job, Patty, and the whole team does a very good job of keeping us up on areas where we exceed the budget. Tends to happen later in the year for good reason, but there's no reason that it can't happen earlier, especially if we cross a threshold like $2,500 or $5,000 of overspending a line. We should at least be made aware of that. Revenues should be monitored, and the plan should be adjusted for any shortfall or improvement. So if we do get some of these major investments that happen and our revenues do go up, there's no reason to keep, we can manage that as well and relax in some areas potentially. Probably the most important thing that I think, and one thing that I'll certainly, I don't like to draw definitive lines in the sand, but certainly any budget in the future that proposes to spend more than $675,000 in fund balance I'll have a real problem with. And therefore, that may mean, although Patty looks at these budgets and says, I have an obligation to bring them in under the law, under the cap, I don't necessarily, if that's the case, I think that we need to do two budgets in that case. If it requires to be under the cap, a fund balance that uses $700,000 or $750,000, I want to see a budget that requires us to use $675,000 or less. And that would indeed mean that we have very little wiggle room. So in the future, this year, if we get hit with unexpected costs that aren't offset by revenue and outspend this budget or the contingency in this budget, it almost means by definition it gets passed on next year as a tax increase. There's no additional flexibility in the budget once we go to this place. And I want to make sure that if that is indeed the case, it gets communicated to the community, and that the board is sure that this is an expense that we want to incur now. One-time revenue enhancements, i.e., the sale of village property, because we're putting because I would suggest we put a fairly strict limit on additions to debt service. Any one-time revenue hits, we should consider putting it into a capital fund or putting it aside to spend in areas where we know we're going to have requirements to spend. We might otherwise have been tempted to borrow for those if we have a fund. And I'm not saying that this is a prescribed fund or a legally defined fund, because that necessarily creates limits and unintended consequences, which I'm not sure I've thought through all the way. But certainly the notion that you get a $100,000 sale from a piece of property, you put that into a fund that you're going to use to buy a backhoe or a piece of equipment, that garbage truck, for example, that we know that at some point we're going to need. Normally might have thought about using a capital fund in borrowing to do. We're going to have to, and I hate to say this, and there's differing views of opinion on this, and I'm not looking necessarily to get to this conversation tonight, but all our other fees are going to have to be looked at. At one point there was a field use fee. I suggest at least bringing that back up for discussion, whether we get there or not, is open to obviously discussion with the community, but we definitely need to look at our whole fee schedule. And I think finally, at the end of the day, $675,000 is basically, you can think of it almost as a deferred tax increase if we can't find a way to offset it. I think that's pretty big. I think it's very manageable. I think there's a rationale to do this budget and to have it in there. I also think there's a rationale to increase our vigilance and to manage through it until we begin to bring it down and reduce the reliance of the budget on that amount of savings. and again, it's all tax cap stuff aside, because I don't really look at this or view the budget through the prism of a tax cap. So that's my 5 cents on it. Sorry to take up a lot of time on that, but just thought it was worth, I'll vote yes for the budget, but want everybody to know under the circumstances in which I am voting yes.
Anybody else want to comment?
Yeah, just a couple of things, particularly the first 2 points that you made. I think that you want to reiterate those, but we really do look closely for opportunities with our new hires already. I mean, I think some of the things that you talked about are things that we do, and we need to keep vigilant with, but I don't want people to think that that's not an exercise that we go through, and that that's not a new idea. And in addition to the borrowing, I mean, we don't take borrowing lightly. We're going to be relieving some debt, and if we could continue to relieve that debt, that's the way I'd like to see it go. I completely agree with you about reviewing the budget a little more often for, I'm sorry, my son just walked in. Just reviewing the budget more often, and I also agree about the fee structure. I think there are things that people are going to have to pay for in this town if they want to have certain services or participate in different things. And lastly, although taking the money out of the general fund is something that we looked at very closely, I believe that our budget was pretty conservative, our estimates were conservative, and that there will be opportunity next year to make that up. So that's all I wanted to add.
Well, I second all of that. I think Jonathan's description is useful, and it, as you might imagine, reflects discussions we have all had. The part of it that I think maybe you might have left the wrong impression with is that it's you against the rest of us seeking this kind of responsible budget. So,
If I may,
Yeah.
I did not. I meant to only say that this was
Understood.
my framework of thought.
Understood.
And I wasn't trying to impose it on any of you
And-
guys.
and
I think I did say that
Yes, yes, yes.
you guys, for the most part, I think embraced it in our discussions in the past. So,
So, and-
I don't want there to leave,
Totally.
that's me against you guys at all.
The one piece I wanted to make clear is that Patty Dwyer, leading this administrative staff and her department heads, have delivered a budget surplus every year. And the reason that's happened is she's on her game, and just as Colleen indicated, when Patty puts these budgets together and we work with her on it, we try to do just what all of us try to do in our own lives, and that is hope for the best and plan for the worst.
But to Jonathan's point, though, is
right.
that she's being put in a situation that she is trying to, put together a budget under the 2% tax cap, and in doing that, it is laborious to beyond belief, and very difficult, and at times it's not representing, the kind of budget that we want. Like Jonathan said, you don't want to. If you're going to do that, and we have to borrow $675,000 from various fund balances, then let's look at it when we go over the cap a little bit. So in order to it's a very difficult process, and to be put under those restraints every single year because of this tax cap is, it's something
No,
that's.
I just, to your point, and I believe me, I appreciate you bringing that up. We've never worked collaboratively, between the administration and any board that sat for the village, constrained by political considerations such as a tax
Exactly.
cap. I mean, we all know you cannot make a rational business decision in a political
Right.
environment. You can't do it.
No.
And we need to make rational business decisions here. We're talking about a corporation that runs on a total of $18-19 million, all funds included. And we can't afford to worry about something artificially constrained, in terms of a cap or otherwise. But, notwithstanding that, we still have obligations here, to run the place well-oiled and well-managed and efficient. And I think, that combination, it's okay. I mean, we understand there's a thumb on us. But there's also a microscope for very good reasons. Some communities do not have the professional management that you have here. The boards are not as sophisticated as your board is. The community's not as educated as your community is. And the tax cap was necessary. It just was. You see what's going on out there. You know, there are communities that were totally out of sync with what, what
Well,
people
with that being said,
would
too,
have
though,
represented.
this board, I think it was 3 years ago, sat down and put together fiscal policies.
Yes.
In order to not, restrict future boards, but then again, also give the proper guidelines to village government that we needed. And a lot of those you have mentioned, Jonathan, but, we worked very hard on that policy.
Yeah.
And that policy has been, has really guided us, and it's something that we have stuck to, and I think it's the best thing we've ever done as far as the budget is concerned, is putting together those policies. And, I hope that continues to guide us and future boards.
I mean, the truth is too, and the mayor, I believe, mentioned this at our last meeting, is that there's not a lot of extra in Pleasantville. We're a small village, there aren't departments that you can cut out, and the bulk of our budget goes towards things that we can't control. They go towards salaries, they go towards pension, costs, and things we have no control over. And to echo something that Jonathan said, our estimates are conservative, and opportunities come when we bring new businesses into Pleasantville, and we have new opportunities. And it disturbs me a little bit when we don't welcome people to come in and just talk about or approach certain ideas. We need to listen to them, and I enthusiastically welcome anybody to come to the meetings or to contact anybody here to let us know how they feel. But the reason we've done so well in the past is that we've welcomed new businesses and opportunities, and we need to continue to be a town that does that. So, I'd just like to see us keep in that direction.
And yet, I just have to say, and without saying where I stand on any of these big opportunities, I welcome homeowners and groups in the village getting together and opposing certain things that they perceive, directions that they perceive the village is taking. That's the heart of democracy. We all, or at least many of us before we were on this board, did things like that. And that's a valuable thing. I do not in any way want to make it seem like I don't welcome those kinds of comments. I do.
No, I agree. I think there's a right way to do things also, and a not so great way to do them. And I welcome any comments, because we want to hear how it impacts everything. But what we don't want to do is not be open to change. There are projects that have gone on in the village, and I can remember when they were really opposed, and now that they're here and now and working, people have embraced them. So we need to listen to all sides and make fiscally responsible decisions, as well as decisions that are positive for our residents. But we need to be welcoming. We don't want to have the idea that new ideas aren't welcome here.
Well, I think in any case, especially in the future, in the years to come, where we'll probably have a 2% tax cap for some time to come, but at the very least, we're just not going to have enough money. I mean, we all know that there are money troubles in every municipality in this state, and it may be that we have to go places we haven't wanted to go in the past. We might have to stop certain services that we've provided in the past.
Some examples.
And, well, if I've said it before, but, we could, for example, stop leaf collection, street side leaf collection. That would save the village. I mean, we have to take a really good look at it and analyze it, but, a significant amount of money would be saved. We have, for example, lights that come on at Farrow's Field all through the summer, and yet we're paying for those lights all through the year. And the use of these lights is not even closely covered by the people who are playing sports under the lights. And I think if we're trying to cut fat out of the budget, it's things like that we just have to look at. And that goes to changing rates or fees within our village. That's fine, but the fact is we don't have a lot to cut. There's not a lot of fat. If you think, and we've had some people can step forward and say, look, I can show you how we'd save money here, and they haven't been able to, just because there's not a lot that we can do. So, it is a satisfying thing to be a trustee in the Village of Pleasantville. And I've been a trustee for a lot of years, and a lot of people on this board have been on this board for a lot of years. But I will say, even though we work well together and it's enjoyable, it's not a lot of fun. We're spending a lot of time not doing things.
Oh, come on.
Well, it's true. In the olden days we could
Is
put
this your
up
campaign speech?
anything but. We could plant more trees, build more playgrounds, see to parks in a more complete way. We just can't do that.
Well, you're
like
right.
we used to.
You're right. You're right.
Well,
It's a
I mean,
different
I think
agenda.
It's a different way to do it.
what you have heard here is you've got 5 people doing what you elected us to do, which is to work hard, get under the hood, disagree collegially when we need to, and come to a result that I think will be unanimous to vote for this budget. Hopefully next year the world will be a little easier. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. Number 14.
Who the heck read that?
I did.
Brian did.
Resolved that the Board of
Congratulations.
Trustees,
Thank
resolved
you,
that the
thank
Board
you.
of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the refuse rates for the fiscal year 2013 through 2014 as follows. Each condominium unit, $309.44. One family residence, $412.59. Two family residents, $618.89. Three family residents, $928.33.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the following water rates for the fiscal year 2013 to 2014. All right, residents, $64.74 per 1,000 cubic feet. This is all per 1,000 cubic feet. Non-residents district, $82.80. Non-residents, $97.33. Bulk sales, $76.23. The ready to serve is charged by the size of the meter size, from 5/8 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 1 1/4 inch, 1 1/2 inch, and 2 inches. And those resident charges start at $57 for the 5/8 inch pipe through 350. I don't have to read all of these, do I? Or just, they're in the record? There is an increase, so everyone knows. A non-resident charge starts at $71, and it goes to a 2-inch pipe, which is $373, but none of us have 2-inch pipes at our houses. Sprinkler system quarterly charges a 4-inch, resident charges $359, non-resident $373, 6 inches $704, and 7/18, 8-inch $1,394, and $1,408. Unit dwellings, I'll just state they're within the record. The balance is within the record.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the backdrop to this is that we're raising water rates. Our water fund is a separate fund because it benefits a group of people that is not exactly the same as the boundaries of the village. We have water customers outside the village, both because they have asked to be added to our system or because of the historical arrangement of the way pipes work. Our water meets the highest level of federal filtration standards because what must be now, 20 years ago, Patty? 15 years ago, the village joined
About 15 years ago.
joined in the venture that had been started by the town of Newcastle, our neighbors to the north, and purchased a share of the water filtration plant in Millwood. The result of that is that our water comes from the New York City aqueduct system. It goes through a complicated and very impressive filtration system, produce water of great purity that is then distributed to all of us. The result of that is that the water is expensive because it is so successfully filtered, and because the infrastructure that we have in the village is also expensive to maintain, including our tanks, our pipes, hydrants, meters, the whole 9 yards, so.
Chlorination station.
And with that being said, also, these are increases.
Oh, new tape,
Okay.
hold on.
They are extraordinary.
Okay, we had a little
expensive in
change
the
of
weather.
our tape, and I was just about to tell you, give you the bad news, that the water rates did go up, and the mayor had explained the process. However, one of the things that, you should be aware of is that there's not a lot of passing on of increases that we have not done over the years. We haven't passed on the increases that we've gotten to buy raw water, and also the building of our new chlorine booster station, and any improvements that we do to the site in Millwood. We had, over the years, have gotten, we put in a solar wall in order to lower our electricity costs, which we did quite significantly. And in addition, we had to buy the new ozone, the ozone
Ozone generators.
Ozone
Which are part
generators.
of the filtration process at
Right.
Millwood.
And they cost a pretty penny, but these are the things we have to pass these costs on. And we're trying not to do that all at once, but we need to do it on more frequently than we had been in the past.
Right, we're not making any money on our water
That's for
funds.
sure. So,
Right.
So, there's no big profit here that we're, upcharging.
Add to
We're not
that,
covering
that
costs.
there are some storm clouds on the horizon, which include the fact that New York City will be taking the Catskill Aqueduct out of service for a period of time at some point in the coming years for repair and renovation. And when that happens, we'll have to pump water from the Croton Aqueduct at quite high expense to the filtration plant. At the moment, the water arrives through gravity. So more on that as it develops, but the bottom line is we've had to increase the rates in order to keep the fund stable. All in favor? Aye, motion approved. Number 97, if you're still with us, you deserve a medal for civic enthusiasm.
Resolved that the Board of Trustees of the Village of Pleasantville hereby approves the pool rates for the fiscal year 2013-14 as posted in the record. Just to highlight families, if you buy them before May 31st, you're getting a discount. Families across the board, but families is $330. Individuals are $158. After May 31st, it's $385 for families, $185 for individuals. There's also a school district rate for families, individuals, pay tags, senior citizens, and guest fees.
Is there?
I have a couple of
A second
questions.
first? You're going a second?
sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
How do we come to these amounts? I'll tell you why. This weekend, I just went online to check and compare to other pool facilities, and I certainly know that there are facilities that are far grander and bigger, but I'm just curious as to how, because they seem very low as compared to some of the other facilities, and I'm not an expert on the other facilities, but
They're supposed to be able to cover the operation and maintenance expenses of the pool for the year. So the lifeguard expenses, the chemicals, the water, the inspections, the minor maintenance and upkeep, the filtration process, any kind of mechanical things. They were never intended to cover any larger capital obligations that we may have for the pool. But they're designed to capture the cost of operating the pool.
so with the...
They don't run as a
the-
profit.
The intended
Mode.
capital improvements coming to the pool,
Mm-hmm.
The intention is to not reflect that at all here. I still
No,
think that they're...
these will go up.
Okay.
The board
These are
is-
raised
yeah.
often. We often.
But they're
these-
very low.
These were just raised, not this year, but they were raised last year, I believe.
I think it was earlier than that.
Or the year before that.
The new debt service would be about $28,000 on this new capital plan, and we talked about making sure that we can capture most of that, if not all of that, through rate increases going forward.
And this is,
Right,
we
that-
are,
that-
this
that
is a public
would be a
pool
goal.
versus a private
Right.
pool. There's a lot of
No,
different.
but I went to public things. For example, I went to, tried to find towns that were similar, but, if you look at Briarcliff or Hastings or Yorktown, they are significantly higher than we are. And there may be details to that, but I just want
There
to
are,
question it.
Briarcliff in particular has tennis courts, and they have a much larger facility than we do, and they have their big pool facility with the whole overhang, and they have.
They may cover their capital
So, I mean, I
expenses.
think the
They have a huge
takeaway,
capital expense there, yeah.
the takeaway from that is we're already out on the street with these numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And given the fact that our capital improvement plan for the pool is well along in planning, but not in reality,
Well, it won't impact this fiscal
it-
year or the
right,
next.
It's
More than
our.
likely to be the subsequent.
We fully recognize that the pool house needs some improvements. The bathrooms in particular are high on our list, and as you've already heard, it's our intent and expectation to be able to renovate those and then capture the cost of that within the pool fund itself, so that it will be a largely self-sustaining entity. So, all in favor? Aye. Motion approved on number 97. Number 98, which is added to our agenda,
98.
Yeah, 98's the new one.
is the mobile, the special counsel.
It's either, right, resolution appointing special counsel
Yeah.
or an episode of Law and Order. So I'm going to read it. I know. Whereas T-Mobile provides personal wireless telecommunication services using a network of wireless telecommunication facilities, including a site within the village located at 345 Castleton Street. It's the big pole. Whereas the T-Mobile site at 345 Castleton Street is a monopole located on property leased from the village and adjacent to the municipal dog park. Pay attention here. And whereas pursuant to the lease between T-Mobile and the village and the special permit approval granted T-Mobile, facility is to be maintained in compliance with the New York State Building Code as well as the village zoning code regulating wireless facilities. And whereas on or about February 5, 2013, during a period of high winds, several exterior panels of the monopole came off and landed in the adjacent dog park and surrounding area. And whereas the exterior sheeting on the same monopole has come off on a prior occasion as well, and whereas the board finds that the most recent incident on February 5th, a great concern and a serious and troubling threat to human health and safety, now therefore be it resolved that pursuant to New York State Village Law 7-7-14 and 20-2006, the Village Board of the Village of Pleasantville hereby appoints the law firm of Turner & Turner as special counsel to investigate the most recent incident, recommend a course of action, and, if appropriate, prosecute T-Mobile for any violations of the law.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion approved. I can report that the dog park has been reopened. T-Mobile has made the necessary repairs, and their engineer, a licensed New York State engineer, has certified that the tower is safe. And so the dog park, after a long period of being closed, is reopened, but the episode is certainly not closed. Witness our intent tonight to hire a special counsel. All in favor? I guess we already voted on that,
Yeah,
didn't
we
we?
did.
2 votes.
So-
2 votes for emphasis.
Next one.
Number 99,
Right.
Holly.
Resolved, the Village of Pleasantville Local Law 2013 be referred to the Planning Commission for review. This local law is to amend Article 7A of the Village Code of the Village of Pleasantville, New York, regulating wireless telecommunications pursuant to New York State Constitution, Article 9, Municipal Home Rule Law 10, and Village Law 7-700.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved. There being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We will go back into work session on several administrative
Thank
matters.
you, David.
Thank you and good night.
Thanks for joining us.
Our next regular meeting, Monday, May 6th.